So welcome to section 5. In this section, we're going to be discussing performing integration at different levels. As a project manager, most of your work is integration. So how do we perform integration? We do that at different levels of the project. So great job so far. Now that we have understood the competencies of project managers and their extensive sphere of influence, let's explore the concept of performing integration at different levels. So firstly, we'll be looking at integration at the process level. At this level, project managers coordinate and oversee various processes involved in the project. Okay? So you coordinate the various processes. Like I've said, a project is a process of processes. So these processes are at different levels of complexity. All right, so you have to be able to coordinate and oversee these various processes involved in the project. It also involves aligning activities, ensuring dependencies are met, and managing interfaces between different project phases. Okay, so at the process level, you are going to be aligning different activities together. All right, ensuring that dependencies are met. All right, you're going to be able to decipher or find out which activities are dependent on the others. All right, for example, when you're talking about supplying a particular equipment or a particular raw material, all right, for your a production project, if you're trying to come up with a new product line, okay, so what depends on what? All right, the start time for the production is dependent on when the suppliers supply you the raw materials or the equipment that you require. Okay, so you have to understand these dependencies, okay, and be able to align them with the timelines for different activities. Okay, and then also managing interfaces between different project phases. So when does one phase end and another phase starts? You have to be able to manage the interfaces between all these project phases. All right, we already dealt with project phases. All right, these are sections within a particular project. All right, or between one deliverable and the next deliverable. Okay, so how about integration at the cognitive level? So let's look at that. Beyond processes, cognitive integration involves critical thinking and problem solving. All right, when we talk of cognitive, we talk of mental. All right, mental, we talk of intellectual. So at the mind level now, all right, so this now involves critical thinking, your thinking a pattern, all right, and then also your problem solving processes. So this is also very, very key. Project managers must analyze complex situations, make decisions, and adapt strategies as needed. So these are the cognitive level, and it's very important. And this is one of the skills of the project manager. And then it's about connecting the dots and understanding the project's overall context. So at the cognitive level, you have to be able to connect the dots. You have to be able to know what activities or what process is related to another. Okay, and then have an understanding of the overall project concept or context. So as a project manager, first and foremost, you have to understand what the project is all about. All right, you have to have an overall understanding of the project. Okay, and we'll now start talking about different aspects of the project. All right, having this understanding, we're able to will enable you to be able to connect all the dots together. So let's look at integration at context level. At context level, integration focuses on how the project aligns with the organization's strategic goals. So we're talking about context now. what is the strategic goal? Strategic are mostly long-term goals of the organization. Okay, what are the long-term goals of the organization? What are the long-term objectives of the organization? So when you're doing contextual integration, you should focus on those strategic objectives of the organization. Project managers ensure that project outcomes contribute to the organization's mission and goal. So as a project manager, you as well as your team has to have an understanding of the organization's mission and vision. Okay, so in that way you'll be able to ensure that your outcomes are contributing towards the actualization of that vision and is in line with the mission. Okay, it involves assessing the project's relevance and impact on the broader context. All right, so how relevant is this project and what is the impact on the broader context? So this is what we talk about, or what we refer to when we talk about integration at the context levels. And let's look at integration and complexity. Complex projects often require a higher level of integration. Now, that simply means that the level of integration that you require for your project will be dependent on the complexity or the size of that particular project. Project managers deal with multifaceted challenges, diverse stakeholders, and evolving circumstances. So you have to prepare your minds about this. As a project manager, you're going to be dealing with overarching challenges, all right, interlocking challenges on a daily basis. You're going to have to deal with diverse stakeholders. We already talked about stakeholders, individuals, organizations who have a direct or an indirect involvement in the project, and whose involvement can affect the project outcomes one way or the other. Okay, and then of course you have evolving circumstances. All right, we said a project is an iterative process, so every day you have circumstances that are evolving, even within a particular task. All right, so these are the things you're going to have to deal with. And then lastly, as a project manager, you must balance competing interests and adapt your integration approach accordingly. So you have to decide on what approach are you using for your integration. So you then have to balance your approach to competing interests and then adapt those accordingly. Okay. Alright, so let's look at the key takeaways from this section. Integration occurs at multiple levels, and they include process, cognitive, and context. As a project manager, you must coordinate your processes, think critically, and align projects with organizational context. So it's very important. Your project is not an isolated entity. All right, it does not occur in isolation. It occurs within the organization, within an organizational context. So you have to understand that because of this, there are dependencies. The project itself and its management coordination is being influenced by the organizational context. So you should have that at the back of your mind. And then complexity influences the level of integration required. So the size of your project, the complexity of your project will influence the level of integration that you require as a project manager. Okay, so this brings us to the end of this module 3, week 3, which is the role of the project manager. Hope you've gotten a lot of value from this model. In our next model, which is module 4 and week 4, we'll be diving into an even more critical aspect of this project management professional training program, which is project integration management. Okay, so we're gradually getting into the crux of this course, and you don't want to miss that. So I'll see you in the next module. Cheers.